Today's project started out pretty simple, at least in my mind, and then I made the mistake of calling Ken from Bolt-On Hooks. They got a lot more complicated soon. Yeah, I was going to replace this antenna, this one right here. That's all I was going to do, just replace an antenna. I've already got the roof off the tractor, but before I got off the phone with Ken, he convinced me to buy a new radio, new speakers. Yeah. Well, I think it'll be a good experience for us to see this all coming together. I'll tell you about how I take the roof off, the headliner down, some of the other accessories that I needed to get to make the radio go together easy. I think this will be an interesting episode. Let's get started. Let's start by showing you the products I'm going to use today. I chose this radio. This is the JVC KD-X38 MBS. The reason I chose this one was not because I necessarily thought it was the best overall radio. I chose it because it claims to have a really bright screen that can be read in bright daylight. It's a marine version. Okay, I think it may be supposed to be a little tougher as well. So I don't know, it was $160. Now, just as a reference, I saw several radios that looked like would work for $100. But the one complaint I saw on all those radios is that you couldn't see the display very well. So I decided to go with the one with the bright display there. I'll put links to all these products in the description. I'm not trying to sell these products. It's just the ones that I chose with Ken's help, especially these speakers here. I got some help from Ken on that. Kicker, 150 watt max, 50 watt RMS. 4x6 speakers, just a standard 4x6 speaker. A pair of those. There are only 2 speakers in this tractor. Ken says I needed to replace the ones that were already in there because they're no good. Fine. The antenna. Now this is where it all started. I actually bought mine from greenpartsstore.com. Part number LVA16700. This was a mistake. You know the old saying, a fool and his money are easily parted. Well, yeah, I think that's what happened here. As soon as I told Ken that I got a new antenna, he said, well, why didn't you just get this one? And he sent me a link to one on Amazon that's $25, and this one I believe was over $100. The cord, everything looks identical. I wasted money there. I'm going to go ahead with it since I already got it, just because I don't have to return it, and besides it's a little bit of the stupid tax that I need to pay for not looking, or at least, as Ken says, not asking him before I went forward. All these 3R, 4R tractors or 3X20 tractors are pre-wired for radio, and they use a plug, the other version of this, right? This would be the male. They use the female version of this plug. It's called the VW01B. VW01B, it is for Volkswagens, 1986 to 04. Every bit of advice I saw online from greentractortalk.com said to go ahead and get this plug rather than trying to just cut it and wire these together. It makes it a lot easier to get your radio out when you actually get ready to mount it in the tractor. This way we can easily remove and replug that. So that's a little tip here, and that brings up a general idea. I'm not the first to try this. I got all of my advice from Ken or from greentractortalk.com, and that's going to really help this. I didn't see any videos going about it, so I thought it would still be worthwhile for us to do a video here. If you want to read some textual descriptions of how to do this, go to greentractortalk.com. You can just search radio, a broad search like that, and you will find this very information. We'll start by wiring our new connector to the radio connector. It looks bad, looks like there's a lot of stuff to do here, but we only need 8 of these wires. So I'm just going to cut this one off. They made the ground wire a little bit longer, but I don't need that. And then I'm going to strip a little bit of each one here. So there's 2 for power. One is switched power and one is always power. And then we need one for illumination, that's the yellow one, and then one for ground, that's the black one. That's these 4 right here. I used to be really nervous about making these butt connections, but then I got these connectors here that have the solder built in so that they'll solder the connection, and they also have the shrink wrap all built in. So I just heat it up with my heat gun and it'll all work out fine. Here's how I do this. I wrap those a little bit and I try to put this on the wire that had the bigger gauge wire, the one that has the more strands or bigger strands. Okay, and then I need to unwrap this so that I can thread these together. Then I'm going to put a little twist in that one, thread them together here to the best I can. And then I'm going to take that twist back out like that. So as these wires, even though they're threaded together, they've got just a little bit of twist to try to hold them. While that's twisted, I'm going to slide that over. And then we're ready for heat. I think I saw some of the solder move. Okay, so those are the 4 power related wires. Now we have 4 speaker related wires that we need. And the only speakers that we have are the fronts. So the gray and the gray black. Thankfully the wires are the same color on each side, so I don't have a lot of translation to do there. Let's continue taking stuff apart inside the cab now. Only 2 screws here hold the radio in. Now, I'd already disconnected it here in the back, except for the antenna. I want you to notice how dirty the headliner looks. Here's the antenna connector pigtail. Now let's start taking the radio out of that shroud. I'm not too concerned about saving this because, well, I'm certain I'm not going to use this radio again. There's a couple of tabs here that I need to bend back, and then I can just slide the radio right out. That's easy enough. Yep, radio's trash. Now the shroud piece is a little bit dirty, but nothing compared to the headliner behind it. I know I need to take the front of the headliner down to get to those speakers. I could not get to those from outside via the roof. I'm just not convinced whether I should take the entire headliner down or just take the front part of it down. 3 screws held the sun visor right there in the middle. Had to take those out. And once I pop this lens off, looks like there's only 2 screws there that need to be removed. The light fixture appears to be attached directly to the roof, and I guess one could say that it's serving a secondary purpose, and that's holding the center of the headliner up. For all this, I just had to take my time, try to figure out what's holding it at each stage, and work gently to get it down. Oh, and I had to deal with the massive amounts of dust that was coming out of it at the same time. Getting it off those radio brackets turned out to be easy. Just a little tug over the top of the bracket itself. Our first peek at the top side, I guess these are slots where the sound can come out of the speakers and get into the cabin. And a broad look around here, I guess only this back piece is left, so maybe I'll just take the whole thing down. Maybe we can get it cleaned up. It looks bad and it's absolutely full of dust. Now that the headliner's out, let's take a quick look around and see what we've got. You can see the 2 front speakers there. Ooh, missing some screws there in that left one. There's the air conditioner vent holes, the HVAC controls. There's the air conditioner return on both sides there. None of this looks too bad. Well, like every project on this 3520, this one's continued to grow. I really started this one by taking the roof off due to that crack in the roof. And no, we still don't have that finished yet. We'll get to that soon. Chris has been sick and he's kind of the expert on getting it painted, so we're going to work on that in a future video. I'm not going to put the top back on just to show you its removal, but I do think it's important to show you just a little bit about how to remove it. It's pretty simple as it turns out, but not seeing under it, not knowing what I was doing, it was a little bit daunting, I suppose. These are all studs. You can see these studs. There's 13 studs around the cab. So when you start to remove the nuts, I think they're 13 millimeter. When you start to remove the nuts, make sure you get all 13. Most of them are obvious. There are holes right in the underside of the cab to show you where most of them are. A couple of exceptions right in the rear of the cab. These corner ones are not as visible. They're hidden by the lights. You have to take the rear flashers down, rear lights down to be able to see those. And then once you see them, it's not a problem. The other two may or may not be covered by the rear air conditioner intake filter. Remove all those, and then it's just as simple as lifting it up. Now there's a little bit of, it's not really adhesive, but there's a little bit of foam insulation around it that makes it feel a bit sticky. There's also a seal around the edge here. It's covered by the plastic that we've put on it. Chris put plastic around it to kind of protect it in its current stage. He's got it all ready for priming and doesn't want to get it all dusty again. But breaking that seal it's not hard at all. It's just knowing that it needs to be done, and you can kind of feel it breaking. It's a lot easier to have two people to actually pick it up off the tractor. I did it all myself, but I about fell off the ladder during the process. So I recommend you getting a helper and two ladders so that you can get around both sides of it. And it's lightweight. It's just quite hard to handle when you can't get to it from all one side. I think with that instruction, you should be able to get the roof off of this tractor. One other update this morning, got me some new axle housings. Well, actually they're not new. A viewer reached out and said he had a salvage 3520 with 700 hours on it, and he was willing to let the axle housing go. I guess I could say he let them go cheap, a lot cheaper than new ones. I'm not sure I'll put those on immediately. We'll kind of see how this goes and how much time I have. It's almost spring and I'm ready to get started, and I got several other things to do. So we may try it this season without them, but I do feel a lot more comfortable having those axle housings here. They were $2,300 or $2,700 a piece. $5,000 for a pair of them would have been more than I was willing to go on this tractor probably. So we're going to focus on this antenna right now, see if we can get it removed. You can see that it's been taped up here. The antenna itself has been broken off, and the tape is probably an attempt to reattach it somehow. My understanding is this is a fairly common problem, and at $110 or $112 a pop to replace them, I can see why it remains a problem. One of the frustrating parts is you have to replace the entire antenna and cable and all the way back to the radio. So yeah, it's a take the top off approach. So between the amount of work and the cost of the deer replacement part, I can see why a lot of them may be left like this. We've already resolved the cost issue. Got a link in the description or at my Amazon store, amazon.com/shop/tractortimewithtim, where you can get the antenna for currently $25. And then this is supposed to just slide right off. I've still got tape there. I may have to get all of that tape off to be able to get it to slide over it. Or just do that. Now, how did that work? Maybe it just plugs together. Once it gets unscrewed, it plugs together. You don't actually have to pull it all the way off the end. That's interesting to know. This cable goes right up through this grommet here. There's a grommet right behind the light. I think it would be overall easiest to pull that light down. Okay, clearly we can't get it out this way. This is fairly small. Just need to follow where it's going to go. Need to get this little grommet out from you so that you can see it coming through the hole. So I think I can open the door and come up through here like this. So when I looked at the other antenna, I don't believe they are supposed to come apart in here. I think that broke when the other antenna broke. And I'm not sure about this little black collar here. In some ways it doesn't seem like it belongs. It wasn't on the other antenna, but the other antenna was loose. So I'll see if it tightens up. I think I may leave that collar on there. Did I just break it already? I did. That is so wimpy. $110 to waste simply because I didn't loosen this screw before I moved it up there. Oh, and it's just because I had it upside down. It wouldn't go out any further than that. So we'll not be finishing the antenna today. I will be ordering another one, this time from Amazon, not the $100 version. But I don't see how that's ever going to keep from just breaking off. One limb would break that off. So I've ordered another antenna. We'll just have to put that off till tomorrow. It's supposed to be here tomorrow. I ordered a different style. I'm not going to recommend something that's going to break that easily. The one I've ordered now has a spring on it. At least maybe if we hit something, it will not totally break immediately. We'll see how it goes. Let's move on to the speakers. Now, having the headliner out is the trick to the speakers. These are standard 4x6 speakers. Really nothing fancy here. As we'll see in a minute, the only fancy aspect is the connector. And when I say fancy, it's not fancy. It's just, it's going to be a little bit unique. But I think it's going to be easy for us to deal with. This side has 3 screws in it. There's not room for the 4th. The other side looks like had 3 screws, but one of them's gone. Okay, here's that connector I was telling you about. So I think what we'll do is we'll cut this pigtail off so we can reuse this connector right here. Okay, I've got my speaker wired up here. I just took the existing connector, put it, I don't know where you can see it best, but I've got just little butt connectors just like I used before. I really like those solder and seal connectors. That really works well. So we're going to use the same connector here. You don't have to use this approach. You can make any type of connection you want, but I thought I might as well maintain all the existing wiring and existing connectors in case somebody, me or someone else, wants to put back in factory speakers. So this speaker doesn't have a dust cover like the factory one. And I don't know if it's necessary. We'll soon find out, I suppose. Now, like I say, it only had 2 screws in it. Have I ever told you about my bolt bin? If you've been watching our program, you know that I'm so thrilled to have the heavy hitch bolt bin. It really saves me. This is an M6 by 16, I believe, that I've used. Yeah, it's got a different head on it than the other 2, but do I really care? It makes it so I don't have to go to the store and search for the exact screw that I had before. HeavyHitch.com, code TTWT on any of their products. It's springtime, guys. It's time to get your weight bracket. Speakers are mounted. I've got the microphone all installed here. Well, it's not really installed yet, but I've got the wire run. So I went right in beside the radio. Where are we? Right there. Went right in beside where the radio's gonna mount. There seems to be a little gap there, so I think we should be fine. And then up here, my intent is there's a hole in the headliner where the sun visor mounts. So I intend to run this cable out through that hole and then put the mic something up like this. I've got the back cleaned up here a little bit. It's not perfect. Yeah, there's some dust around the foam there and everything, but hey, it's good as it needs to be, I think. We need to see if Christy's ready with the headliner. Christy's got this headliner cleaned up pretty well. I'm going to try to put it back in, assuming I can get it to fit in here with me. There's several challenges here. One is, first I got to get this light here down. The biggest challenge I had getting it out was the AC controls over here. Just getting them to fit through that square hole, and they don't have a lot of flex. Okay, hopefully you can see these little loops here. There's loops a couple places here. Those have to go up in here. I don't want to go too far too fast here. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I do have my microphone that's got to come out. Where did it go? That's right, that's the seat suspension. Not very happy about that. It's the standard mechanical seat. Trying to decide what to do with that, but I think my decision is already made. Hopefully the finance committee doesn't mind too much. Oh, should have been above this one. That really wasn't so bad. Get ready to put those screws in and those screws in. My goodness, this looks a lot nicer. This is incredible, Christy. Excellent job. I don't know if I can get out of the light so that you guys can see just how much improved this is as far as the staining and the darkness in it. It's so much better. The headliner's proven to be much more difficult to get down than to put back up, which was, I assumed it would be the opposite. I really thought it might be hard to get back in here. And when I say much harder, it really wasn't that difficult to get down. Main thing was I didn't know what I was doing. Just took a lot of time to kind of work with all these obstacles. Oh, this looks so much nicer. Probably should have cleaned that lens a little bit. Now it looks nasty compared to the rest of it. What do you think of the microphone position? Is that going to work? You know, just really loosely hooked on the headliner here. That's really all that's holding it. Let's take a look at the radio now. This is that shroud piece. Christy's cleaned that up really nice as well. I'm trying to leave the plastic on the front as long as I can, but it won't be long probably. So make sure I get it right side up. So the radio fits perfectly in there. We can kind of get a peek at what it's going to look like. See right there, that's going to be perfect. And then we've got this piece on the back side. Which I believe is going to go through there and latch. And I just don't know if that's for sure going to happen or if I'm going to pry it apart too hard. See, that's what I'm, oh, okay, that's not a problem. Yeah, it is a problem. Got to figure out what I'm working with here. So that would slide on through. Would this slide on through? Does not. Maybe that's how it goes then. Yeah, that latches right in there. Does give just a little bit of give there, but not much. And then maybe we can put the radio in like this. Just had to bend those tabs in just a little bit. And now we are set. And then we put the front plate on. Wow, looks nice. My only concern now is that this radio is not as deep as the other one, and there's a bracket back here to keep it kind of steady. And so I may have to do some extra manufacturing. I don't know where I would attach that anyway. There's a little 1/8 inch threaded spot there, but I don't know how else we'll hold that up. I may have to do some special work on that. But I think we're ready to go to the tractor. Before we do that, I can actually take my cable here, cut this in. I do have a little concern that I have made this too stiff here. Can it make the bends that we need to make? If not, I can redo that. This will be the microphone. That is the speaker. I'm just going to slide it up in the slot here. Not going to worry about these cables for now, except that I want them out that side of the hole. These were the Torx screws. They have washers. Let's see what it looks like on the outside. I'm happy so far. This is the bracket I was talking about. You know, I don't have any support back here. It may not need any. It feels pretty good. This is the connector that we got, the Volkswagen connector here. And you can see that's going to fit directly in here. I think it'll be fine. I probably should strap it down here somewhere. This is my microphone wire. Maybe we should coil it back up. I'll get a zip tie for that. Plug it in. So first I'm going to zip tie the microphone wire just to itself. Sometimes I have single-sided zip ties and sometimes double-sided, and so I have to try to worry about which side I'm using. I'm going to zip tie all this together. Now I believe the airflow is going to be a little bit better across here because the radio is not as big as it was, but having said that, I don't think that's really ever been an issue. I really don't like that the airflow is just to this whole compartment. I realize why it's done, and I don't know that I have a better solution, but I'd really like to keep the air directed right at the vents instead of just kind of available to this whole compartment here. We have to keep that really sealed off here, to keep that cold air or hot air from escaping this area and getting to the rest of the cab roof where it's not insulated at all. This section, if you remember looking at the roof, was insulated. We're ready for an antenna, but we don't have one. Maybe I can get the Bluetooth connected and I can call Christy. See if it works that way. Okay, so I'm listening to my talk radio. I need to see if I can get a hold of Christy. Tell her what's going on. Hey!
I can hear you.
Oh, I just needed to turn the volume up for you. Now can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hey, that's all right. How's the sound?
It's pretty good. I can hear something that sounds like wind, perhaps.
Interesting. There's no wind near
just
the
like
microphone.
static.
Okay.
Static, maybe.
Is it bad?
No. I'm trying to be critical because I figured you're wanting to know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're trying to criticize my work. I get it. I got you.
Right, exactly. Isn't that
got
what
you.
wives do?
Yeah, I've got you on video here.
That's what I figured.
See, I don't have an antenna, so I can't do an AM/FM radio test. I can test the Bluetooth, and that's working. The Bluetooth audio is working, and now the phone call is working. Let me go wide open throttle with it. Now, remember, I don't have the roof on, so there's still, all these air conditioning vents and everything are open to the outside world. Can you hear me now pretty well?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Yep, I can hear you too. I've turned you up a little bit more. But, hey, this is going to work.
I think so. You sound a little muffled.
Do I? Well, the microphone's a good ways away. It's actually further away than what I realized. I wonder if I move forward, does that help?
Talk some more.
Oh, it didn't help much for me to move forward?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it doesn't matter then. Folks, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Like most projects, it's got out of hand. But I think we're finally containing it here. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on
Tractor Time with Tim.
Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. Why'd you go so slow?
I don't know.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim. Hey,
Tractor Time with Tim.
Tractor Time with Tim. Well, let's do that again, Christy. We never get redos, but we're going to do a redo this time. Did you think you delayed last time, or was it not?
No.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think I did.
Okay. Well, I'll pause this time until I start to hear you say it, and then I'll say it with you. Okay?
Okay.